Wait. Before we start, just want to make sure we're clear here. While this podcast talks about sobriety, mental health, and addiction, it is not meant to replace professional medical advice. Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety.
I'm Kathleen.
And I'm Sonia.
And we're ex-sisters-in-law, brought together in marriage and bonded through our sobriety journey.
Join us as we talk sobriety, addiction, and everything in between. You're in for quite a ride. And our Substack is buzzing with amazing content, from creative mocktail recipes to insightful courses and reflective exercises. There is something for everyone. Don't miss out. It's a great way to add some extra joy and depth to your journey. Check it out. Welcome to Sisters in Sobriety. Today, our guest is Cheryl Pasieka, author of the memoir, Climbing the Stairs, My Journey from Addiction to Pure Joy, which chronicles her recovery from alcohol addiction into a life grounded in mindfulness and joy.
Cheryl now dedicates her life to helping women recover from burnout, stress, disconnection, and addiction, guiding them as they reclaim their power.
Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So let's start with your story. Can you share a little bit about your background and what role alcohol played in your life early on?
This part of the journey started in 2020 when I had lost my mother, and then I also lost a number of people in our lives. And it reminded me how short life is and that I wasn't really living this life of joy. And I wanted to resolve that. And I tried to quit drinking a number of times. Every time I got stressed or I got into an issue that I didn't want to deal with or whatever, then that's what I would do. I would drink. And I knew that I wanted, because life is so precious and so short sometimes for a couple of people, I just didn't want to do this anymore. I wanted to say sustainable joy in my life. I wanted to find out what the root causes were. I knew if I just quit and did it on my own, that I wouldn't resolve anything. So I needed to get to root causes, find out why I was hiding behind alcohol every time I got stressed. And I needed to learn how to put the oxygen mask on me first.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what made my decision to go to rehab. I went out to Vancouver Island to a place and spent a few months out there, which was the best thing that could happen to me. There was no escaping. They confiscated your phone and everything so that you could stay there and concentrate on your stuff. So that's how the journey started. And it was very challenging. Get to that point. The first couple of years are just full of challenges and I can't do this and fears of failure and emotional, and obviously dealing with some of the root causes that some of the resentments that I was holding on to. It was a difficult road for that first couple of years. But what I learned at rehab was sort of a roadmap. And in the book, I write about various things that you can try to do, but I think you have to find your own road, what works for you. Gabor Mate said something about, well, you can take 2 steps, you can take 12 steps, you can take no steps, etc., but you have to find the path that works for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's what I learned at rehab. And for the first couple of years of going to meetings and talking to people and doing all the things, doing yoga and, working on my emotional well-being, I guess, that it was tough at times. And yes, you want to give up sometimes, but perseverance. I was just determined that I wasn't going to waste the rest of my life in a bottle.
In those early days of sobriety, what sort of fears came up for you and how did you move through them?
Part of the fear was I had gone to rehab and people knew I went to rehab, and what if I didn't do it? What if I failed? What would I say then? Oh yeah, I tried that, but it didn't work. Or I'd have to go further into the cocoon. So that was fearful. and that I wouldn't find what I needed, what I wanted, that people wouldn't accept it. And yeah, sure, you do lose some people along the way that don't know what to say to you anymore, or they're not sure how to deal with you. And that's a difficult part too. That thought we were friends, and as soon as you heard, you stopped. But mostly it was reverting back and just living this sad life, I guess, in a way.
And had you tried, Cheryl, to moderate before or cut back? And
Yeah.
what felt different this time? What helped it stick? Was it the rehab? Was it I know I always say my sobriety is like 50% based in fear. Like it really is. Like I'm afraid
Yeah.
of drinking again. So yeah, what made it stick this time, and had you tried before?
I had tried before. I went to my GP, and it's amazing to me how little most doctors really understand the disease. I didn't understand the disease until I started to learn about it more. Um, and I remember him saying to me, "Well, how many drinks do you have a day?" "Oh, okay. Well, just have one less this week, and then the following week two less, and then eventually you just won't be drinking." Well, it's far beyond that. It's far beyond that. When you run into an issue, or something goes wrong in your life, or someone passes, or you get upset about something, and that's you're just the heck with it. I'm just gonna have a drink. And I was very fearful of that. And I take my sobriety really seriously, and it's my focus every day. And that wasn't something I was used to, of focusing on me. I was always looking after everybody else, and making sure that everybody else cared. And eventually, I remember hearing something at rehab that said, what other people think about you is none of my business.
Mhm.
You know, it's and allowing people to go away and not take it personally, and just, that's life. People swim in and out of your life, and some people are meant to be friends forever and connected forever, and some people are not. And maybe it's their insecurities that they don't want to have contact anymore, or maybe people just don't know what to say.
What inspires you, Cheryl, to write Climbing the Stairs, and how did that become part of your healing process?
It was beyond the 2 or 3 years that was just really the struggle with going to meetings. It was in the middle of COVID, so I wasn't going outside of my house, which made my sobriety a little easier, that there was no social things to deal with. Uh, but I had this quote from Brene Brown that I wrote in my book, and it said, "One day you'll tell your story of how you overcame what you went through, and it'll be somebody else's survival guide." And around that time, I went to a psychic just as a lark, and she said, "Geez, you're meant for something else, and I think you're supposed to be writing a book or something." I go, "Oh yeah, right." And because I had never done that before. Um, and then it was suggested to me by a counselor that, because I had been journaling since the day I went into rehab, that I journaled every single day. I It was suggested to me, read the journals again. At the time, I had maybe four, and read them from cover to cover, and then sit down and just write out what you're thinking, as healing for yourself. And so I I did that, and then when I sat down to write, it just flowed out of me, like out of my heart. I just kept writing, and I kept looking at this quote on that bulletin board and thinking, "Oh yeah, well, Brene, I'm trying." Not really thinking that I would necessarily publish it, but just I kept thinking about, what if somebody else could learn some nugget, or what if someone was inspired by reading this and saying, maybe I could do that too. Um, what if it was just one person? That would be okay. The idea wasn't to um, reach 1 million people. I mean, that would be lovely. But the idea was just one person at a time. And it was finding more joy. It was noticing things around me. It was appreciating things around me, people around me. Just wanted to fully embrace things. So I just started writing and writing and writing. And then I phoned a publisher and said, this is what I'm doing. Like, what do you think? So, yeah, it's kind of how it started.
Wow. So, Cheryl, did you face any resistance when you made that decision to share your story, either within yourself or from your family or friends?
I didn't tell a lot of people at first because I was writing it for me and for my own healing. When I started to tell people, it was further along the process. And maybe it was a little bit of fear. By that point, I was accepting of this is the way my life was, and this is what I've done about it, and I'm proud of it. And the people that care for me are proud of it too. And the others, that's okay. That's okay. You're not going to get everybody on here. And by that point, I'm at the 3 year mark. I'm writing my sobriety plan, which I do. I revisit every 6 months. What am I doing? What could I be doing more of? What can I let go of? What do I need a little more counseling? When I rewrite what my plan is, and my plan at that point was to write this and then see what happened from there.
Cheryl, how did the process of writing your memoir change how you viewed your past and maybe your root causes?
At that point, I had been, in therapy and in groups and that sort of thing, and I had started to let go of a lot of past resentments, divorce and things that had happened to me throughout my life that I was still holding on to, and I was just talking to myself at the same time, saying, "That's what shaped you. That's part of who you are. That's the way you are. I accept myself for all my mistakes and all my faults." And I had come to that place myself, and I sort of said, what others think is okay. Because for the first time that I could recall, I was accepting who I was and that this was part of who I was. And I made lots of mistakes, but and we all did. We're human beings. We all make mistakes. And we all do things that we regret in life. And I I just didn't want to live with that regret anymore. Constantly saying, "Oh, look at you! You screwed that up, or you did that wrong, or I just didn't want to do that anymore. I am who I am. I'm trying to be the best human I can be, and I'm a kind and compassionate person, faults and all. So take it or leave it." So I really I was proud of what I was doing, and when I was writing, I wasn't concerned of what other people thought about it. And that was a huge change for me because prior when I was drinking, I was always concerned about what the guy next door thought. And I'm not concerned with that anymore. I know that it's coming from my heart. I know it's genuine. And I know I'm being true to myself. And I hope you can accept that. And if you can't, that's okay.
When you look back, what were some of the root causes of your drinking?
Uh, Part of it was just self-esteem things, secrets, things that had happened to me in my earlier years that I no longer shared with people. I was ashamed of things that had happened and feeling that it was my fault. I failed at marriage, so it must have been my fault because you're taught to get married and then you just persevere through life. Buck up, you know. And I, yeah, I was resentful. I was resentful um, of the affairs that my partner had, and I was resentful of some of the things they did. But then I realized that every marriage breaks up with, that there's two sides to every story, right? And I had some say in, and I knew that when I got really stressed about it, when things weren't working for me, that I would just climb into that hole,
Mhm.
and particularly when my children were with their dad, that it was all along, you know. And when the kids were home, then I was all, chipper being the mom and doing the thing. But when I was on my own, it was a different story.
Let's change gears a little bit and talk about joy.
Right.
How do you define joy in the context of healing and recovery?
Uh, Joy to me is living every day and finding the wonderful thing about it and being mindful of
Yeah.
what's around, whether it's my surroundings, or I tend to now see things from a positive light, not the negative light. I put an example in my book about a fellow I met at Tim Hortons. And he was just sitting there grumpy. And I said, "Oh, isn't it great that spring's around the corner? We're in the lineup." And he said, "Oh, no, it's raining now, you know." Well, yeah, it's better than snow, though. And so trying to find the flip side. And so joy for me is getting up and not seeing the negative, and or seeing it and attacking it and saying, but there's a good part about this. It's pouring rain, but now I can get things done around my house. Or it's a beautiful day, so now I want to go to the U pick and pick my own flowers. I it's it's waking up every morning being grateful that I'm
Mm.
awake, and grateful of the people around me, and grateful that I have another day of sobriety. It's grateful for my surroundings and the way I approach life now. And I'm just happy. I'm just,
So, do you see a difference between calmness and joy, and how do you navigate those in recovery?
it certainly is, in the sense that I have a tendency to get wound up easily and anxious, and things aren't getting done, or I get angry about something and damn, that didn't work. And but now um I'm just taking a different approach to it. Well, that didn't work out. I don't see it as I'm not seeing it the same way. And just taking it and going with the flow, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Uh,
calmness is part of your joy.
it is. It is. I get up in the morning, and first thing I do is get up, and I journal, and what are the plans for the day, and I can hardly wait to go for a walk. Or I'm just looking um for joyful things, and positive energy.
Mhm.
And that was one of the things I had to let go of, is not wanting that negative energy around me anymore. I don't want to hear the woe is me, and we all have bad days. I get that. But there are people that go through life just like, oh, another day, same stuff.
For sure, a lot of people, a lot of people.
A lot of people. And I just don't want to be around that energy anymore.
Mhm.
And there's people that I'm not around anymore, that I just
Yeah.
drag drag me in joy, you know.
Mhm.
And I just don't want to be a part of that. I don't want to focus on the past. It's done. It's already happened, and it's made up who I am today. Uh, I can't change anything about it. It's there, and all I can do is live today. And tomorrow is kind of uncertain. Really, we can make plans for tomorrow, but we're not guaranteed.
That's for sure.
Um,
Mhm.
and so I found, although people, um, drifted away from me, I found that I drifted away from them too.
Mhm.
as I was on this journey of maintaining my sobriety, not allowing myself to get in that negative hole, which obviously alcohol makes it even worse. And I just didn't want to do that anymore.
Mhm.
And um, and there are times. I mean, I'm not taking away from the roadmap. There are times when I wish I could be a normal person and just have a glass of wine with a girlfriend after work or whatever. But that's not part of my life at this point.
So, Cheryl, what are some foundational tools that have helped you with your sobriety?
One of the major things I do every day is I journal. And I'm not journaling about, oh, today I think I'll go to the grocery store and go for a walk or whatever. It's more, I might pick up on a quote from a mindfulness book or something and say, how does that affect me today? How am I feeling? What is this angst that's happening for me right now? So journaling is a huge part of it. And sometimes I'm writing for pages and pages, and sometimes it's just good morning, sunshine. Here's
Yeah.
another day to seize the day. So that's a big part of it. The first couple of years, I was also doing a yoga practice and meditation practice. So when I got up in the morning, I would journal, I would do my meditation or my practice. I mean, I had an advantage in that I am retired now. So, and was retired by the time I went to rehab. So I I can get up first thing in the morning and look after my morning needs. For the first couple of years, I had a group of girlfriends that I had met at rehab, um, some virtually and some in person. And we had a meeting every morning just to check in. How are things going? What's happening for you? Are you feeling anxious? And we talk about each other's. Last night I really wanted to drink, or somebody else would say that, or last night I relapsed, or whatever was going on for this small group of women. And we would talk about it a little bit and encourage each other and sort of get the strength of the day. Let's just get through today and we'll talk again tomorrow. So I did that for the first couple of years. And now I have a good friend that also went to rehab, not at the same time. We met a couple of years later and we chat every week. What's going on for you? Have you had any fear of relapsing? Has anything, gone astray? We both have a counselor that we tap into once in a while. I don't tap into her as much as I used to with a regular meeting. I'm trying to look after my body better, be kinder to myself. And uh, and yoga is something that I did for a long time, and just looking after me first, me first. Yeah, and that's a tough thing, especially as a mom. You're always looking after somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, I think how my life is today is that I'm not waiting for somebody else to bring me flowers. I'm planting my own garden.
What do you say to women, especially that are in midlife or retirement like yourself, who are searching for that renewed meaning or purpose?
Uh, I I spent a lot of time talking to myself, reading, and what is it that I want? What is it that would make me happy? What do I want more of? And reading, various authors, listening to different, YouTubes or podcasts or whatever, and just getting nuggets of, yeah, I think I want more of that. I'd like to give back to the community more or to do some volunteer work. How can I give back to community, not just sobriety community, but just in general to be out there in my community more. Started again to sew and I started making quilts for people in need, and it was just something to give back. Not necessarily in sobriety. I just wanted to be a fuller part, a fuller Cheryl. You know, and I think the other thing is that I consciously every 6 months sit down and say, what am I doing? what's working for me? What would I like to see more of in my life? What's the point? And like at that 3-year mark, I thought, maybe I will start to write this book just for myself. That was part of that 3-year plan. And then at the 3.5-year mark, oh geez, that's working pretty good. What if it went out to the world? And so every 6 months, I revisit that and make sure that I'm not losing touch with or not pretending. What am I pretending not to know? Sometimes people that go to rehab or quit drinking, then they replace with something else, another addiction, or oh, I don't drink anymore. I just go gambling, or
Mhm.
anymore. I just have a joint once in a while or whatever. And so that's what I call things that, what are you pretending not to know here? Still another crutch from living your full life. And um, so sometimes I have to remind myself, right? I've let go of a lot of resentments that just don't go through my mind anymore. I'm not beating myself up for mistakes that I made 20 years ago.
And so when people are still using that crutch, in my case, it would mean I'm still struggling, right? With something, which is usually for me, self-esteem, self-worth, self-judgment. What's your approach when you start feeling those feelings?
When I feel like I'm starting to put myself down a little bit.
Mhm.
Mhm.
You
Um,
still do that.
yeah, and so I tend to write, and
Mhm.
so that's when I get out my journal and what's happening, what am I feeling, why do I feel that way, what's really going on. Okay, I'm not hiding behind this anymore, but why am I substituting it with this? And
Right.
I'll write all that out to myself and reread that. And one of the things I used to do, and I still do occasionally, is go back in my journals to another struggle. And because I would have written about the struggle, and I would have written about, oh, I feel better about this now because I realize that this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a substitute here. So rereading the journals is a huge healing thing for me. And I I know when some of those struggles were, and so I pull out one of those 8 journals and I find where I struggled before. One of the really great healing things is to read that first journal where I'm right in rehab and I am right in the crux of it. I don't want to do this. I want to run away. And how am I going to run away? I'm on Vancouver Island and I don't have a wallet and I don't have a phone and how I got through that. And I would write all those details out. So I remind myself that look at this. This is what you did back at the beginning. This is how you got through it. You talked about it. You talked to a friend about it. You talked to yourself about it by writing it out and talking about or reading it. And I talked my way through it like a good friend.
Yeah. And so what would you say to somebody who woke up this morning hungover, feeling stuck, and they feel like they can't even take that first step?
It's tough. I mean, I remember those days getting up and thinking I'm going to try again today. When I made the decision, I knew that I had tried doing it less today, or I had tried keeping myself busy today, but I wasn't getting to the root cause. So I guess even before I stopped drinking, I'd probably find somebody to talk to about it and
Mhm.
maybe go for counseling about it. And I used to talk to my doctor about it, and then I wasn't getting the answers I needed at the time, but it was a start to actually say, I have a problem and admitting to self that I have a problem. I wasn't telling anybody around me yet, but I was writing a note to myself, you have a problem here. You keep you keep going back to that. You say you're going to quit today, and by the end of the day, you've already poured the glass of wine, you know. And so you're doing it again, over and over again. And so it was a lot of self-talk. And It wasn't until I started telling someone, like my doctor at the time, and he suggested some counseling, and then I got a counselor and I started talking to her about it, um, that it kind of broke it open. Like they, it's not like I could say, oh yeah, just ignore all that. That was just, you know, when I started admitting it to other people, then it opened it up and it started to hold me more accountable, you know.
Yeah.
But it started with myself, and then talking to other people about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think I knew I had a problem for a long time before I actually did anything about it. And I had actually gone the same route where I had talked to a family doctor and then even to a psychiatrist. And they're like, well, yeah, how much are you drinking? I'm like, "Oh, a few glasses of wine a night." And it's like, well, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Cheryl, I cannot tell you how much I learned from talking to you. I have never gone back and reread a journal entry of mine, and I think I might actually do that today. There's some fear I have of it, and I don't know why. I have them, and I've never gone back and read anything more than maybe a week or 2 old.
Yeah. No, it's very healing because you marvel in yourself. You go, wow, look what I did. Huh. That was pretty good. And I got through that and looked at the state you were in at that time. It's a very healing process to jumpstart yourself again.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and we will link to your book in our show notes. And thank you all for listening to Sisters in Sobriety.